You're welcome to session 4 of this lecture. This is Wilber, Ssebuyungo, Kivekayunga, and in this session 4, we're still continuing with human resource management in the national and international setting. And in this session 4, we are specifically going to look at contracts, and after looking at contracts, we shall also look at the human resource management in the international human resource management in the international setting. So that is what we're going to focus on here in this session, so that we concentrate more on work contracts and agreements, and then the changes that have taken place in human resource management, and also the internationalization of the workforce. So for this first session, we are going to look at contracts and agreements. Contracts and agreements are written and are binding to the organization, and are also binding to the contractor, whether the contractor is an individual or non-individual. We use the word non-individual when the contractor is a company or a non-government organization, or even if it is a company limited by guarantee or a one director company, it is a company. So we call it a non-individual if it can be sued in a court of law, and it can even pay penalties for not meeting some deliverables as is specified, or those obligations that are specified in this binding document we are calling a contract or an agreement. So contracts are used in outsourcing and in partnerships and dealing with corporate customers. So you can have contracts with the corporate customers, or contract with the corporate suppliers, or contract with partners, and we set up a document which reflect what we have agreed upon, and what brings us together, and the obligations and the mandate of each of the parties involved in this agreement. So these are adopted. So what do we do? Define the relationship between the organization, the supplier or the customer, and the company. So what is what are those obligations of each of the parties involved in the partnership or in this agreement? Then spell the boundaries within which the relationship is confined. What are those boundaries? Where should the person not exceed? Okay. Then these you have to provide information on the obligations of each party. You need to get the information about the obligation of each party. So mostly this information is legally obtained and can also be sourced from the stakeholders of this, or the parties to the agreement. So the terms of supply and conditions for change in organizational needs, because the needs of the organization can change, affecting the terms of supply. So those conditions are also integrated within the contract or the agreement. Then we also look at the terms of payment. When do we pay? and when what are the modalities of payment, after supply or before supply. Could it be that we do a partial payment before supply, or do we pay after a month or after or quarters, or what period specifically? The terms of payment are clear. Then the quality and the quantity standards are specified, including shape, color where possible. So then even the brand which should be supplied, the condition for compensation of costs in terms of damages. What we call damages here, when there is loss, or one of the parties has misguided or misled or mismanaged a process resulting into loss, who pays the damages? Or one of the parties sues the other in a court of law, and a case is lost, so the costs have to be met in terms of penalties or fines. All those are clearly defined. The tenure of service and the conditions of reviewing or renewing a contract are also specified. So these are the key aspects which are considered in defining a partnership or a contract or even an agreement. Then the legalities regarding appeals. An appeal is a reference to a higher authority or a higher court in case the issues have failed to be negotiated in civil terms, or in a mediation mediation environment. So one can seek for an appeal to a higher authority for consideration. What are those conditions? Then management of grievances and complaints from one of the parties involved in the agreement. How do we manage those grievances? Then reporting system is also defined. Where do we report? These reports can be monthly and can be periodic, or there should be a system which tracks data. And if, for example, is a supplier and has supplied, there should be a system where they enter and everyone sees what has been supplied. And if there is a depletion in stock and the supplier needs to know the minimum stock levels to be able to resupply, then the supplier needs to revisit the reporting system. Otherwise, the supplier can receive late orders, and the lead time within which the supplies are made may not be suitable for facilitating production, and the supplier supplies when actually the raw materials are exhausted and they are out of stock. So production goes stale because of low supply or taking long to supply. But could be an issue because the orders have taken long to happen. So a reporting system has to be established and defined very well within the contract or the agreement, stating how this system has got to be, the reporting system has to flow, so that information is routed to back and forth from the contractor, from the contractors and the contracting body for efficiency and effectiveness of services. So the terms of disengagement, which we also call the termination terms, are also defined, and these are guided by the contractors or the contracts law. We have laws which govern contracts, which we call the contracts law. So we work within the legal framework so that the aspects which we address in the contract are also consistent with the national laws or the procurement laws. So we have looked at these aspects, the key aspects of a contract, where the relationship between the organization and the supplier or the corporate customer or the company is defined. Then you also spell the boundaries which each party has got to be confined. The information about obligations and responsibilities of each party is defined. The terms of supply, the terms of payment, the agree on standards, and also compensation of costs in case of damages, the tenure of services, the possibilities of appeals, handling of grievances, and reporting systems, then the termination terms of the agreement. So in this other part, we're going to focus on the changes in human resource management, which we are calling the workforce dynamics. Human resource is included to designing the notch of business strategies. So it has got to be at the top notch of business strategies to cover advancements in customer behavior. We need to also focus on changes in employee trends, the modifications in companies. Companies are reshaping themselves. Those are what we call the workforce dynamics. What are the employee trends, the customer behavior, supplier behaviors? We want to handle workers. So you cannot handle or manage workers well when you don't know what is happening in the workplace and those changes that are taking place in the workplace. So some of these changes can be foreseen and planned for, such as the heterogeneity of the workplace or the workforce. What we call heterogeneity comes from the word heterogeneous, which means that workers have various and varied abilities, physical strength, different cultural backgrounds, various races, belong to different ages, have different gender, belong to different religious inclinations. So the workforce or the human resource manager has got to be careful with these changes in physical abilities, the strength, cultural backgrounds, the races, the age, and the gender, the religious inclinations of the workers, so that that precision is there in the mind of the human resource manager. The other is that workers have differing tastes and preferences which guide their differing behavior. So we are working in an environment where workers have different tastes, even if it is food or color or time of working. various workers have different tastes and experiences. They have various desires and what they consider as priorities. So human resource managers have are challenged to look at these changes. There are gender movements where women and embracing gender needs is very key. Women are now joining telecom, mechanical engineers. You find women in security, women in medicine, doctors, women who are doing construction and are flying planes. Others are driving trucks, which in the previous and earlier years, these jobs were occupied and dominated by men. So the human resource manager is tasked to actually reshape the perspective of being gender biased about some of the employment opportunities. That some human resource managers think that some employment opportunities are meant for men, not for women, and others are meant for women, not for men. Now, in the current generations and the changes in human resource needs, we see that there has been an adjustment and a paradigm shift where activities are done by everybody and everyone actually qualifies to do it, and even female or women, girls can do this work. These ladies can do the work that men were doing earlier on and can do them even better. So human resource need to adjust and incorporate these changes in the human resource environment. Then human resource needs also to see the changes in the environment pertaining to child labor movements. So we have had issues where there are minimum employment age in countries, where those who are below the age of 18 and in some countries below the age of 16 are not legally accepted to work in some offices or to entirely work in the country. So it spells and depends on the country laws, but this has got to be considered. There are issues concerning children rights and parenting systems, which human resource managers have got to be aware of. And then child labor, those issues have to be addressed within the human resource management environment. We also see that there are issues of sexual harassment that needs to be eliminated at the workplace. So the need to eliminate possibilities of unhealthy sexual exchanges and sexual exchanges for work, sexual exchanges for payment, sexual exchanges for incentives is becoming alarming in the community. So human resource managers need to set strategies and policies against sexual harassment and sexual abuse of both the female and male gender. There are also other changes in the human resource environment. For example, there is a need for inclusivity and diversity that is cropping up and is really becoming very dominant, and is a need which is comparable comparable to other needs, basic and core needs, such as inclusivity. So people with disability, those with visual impairments, audio, physical impairments, and any other disability are now and in the modern times considered able, and not only considered able but also are able. So the notion of disability is not inability is very key in the human resource environment, where policies and the planning is done in such a way that even people with various impairments are considered in employment and are offered jobs to do them, and they can, because disability is not inability. And therefore an enabling environment has got to be created by the human resource manager so that there is inclusivity and diversity in the workplace. There is also a shift in increasing the demand for increasing flexibility, considering that there should be considerations for human resource to create convenience, such as flexible work schedules, career development. Daycare centers are provided at workplace, breastfeeding time for women at workplaces, and are enabling social interactions within the workplace, where the workplace has people who are belonging to some social groups, such as um, could be having their own groups. People are allowed to have groups and unions within the organization. So these are becoming integral part of the human resource plan to promote flexibility and these social organizations. There is also a demand for globalization and the internationalization, where organizations are creating and adapting systems that link them with the international setting, so that we are not only enclosed in the national setup or within the village or within the city or that county or in that state, but can also set systems that cut across and meet the international standards. So, policies and procedures, quality and standards are benchmarked to make both national and meet international needs. There are also changes within minimum salary and remuneration guidelines. Some countries have established a minimum salaries, and these being implemented to eliminate possibilities of exploitation by exorbitant and selfish employers, and to bridge income inequity, those gaps of income inequities, so that salary is capped and there is a minimum salary requirement for an employee. There are also technological and automational needs, or there is a demand in the world that is hitting the human resource office, that demands for improving technology and making systems automated. So human resource software such as the HR infosys systems, HI driven, the AI, artificial intelligence driven tools are cropping up. Automation in routine tasks, task flows in systems of workplaces, whereby clicking on a button, someone is assigned a task, and when the task is done, there is a reporting of completed tasks, pending tasks, overdue tasks, undone tasks, and even data can be run to see which tasks and who has not completed the task within a few minutes. So automated bonus awarding systems are there. Automated or authorizing systems and approval of rights. A bank can send an authorizing note to a signatory, and by thumbprint or by typing a code, the approval is already done. So all those automations are done in the organization, and so human resource managers have got to focus on making sure that workers increasingly create technology or adopt technology for automation of systems and making the work simpler. There is also a drive of what we call data-driven decision-making systems. So human resource is increasingly relying on data analytics and informatics and data providing software to predict changes and make decisions. So there should be systems and software designed to provide human resource management offices with data. So data for assessing employee engagements, work output, their successes, their abilities, their improvement in skill sets and knowledge, advancement in academia can be tracked within a system, and by clicking a button, one is able to run a report on which skills the employee has and what skills has the employee added, or what is the employee working on to improve skills and abilities, and such an employee or worker can be followed up basing on data available. So charts and graphs can be drawn about a department or a worker. So this is very key. Data can also be extracted about the competitor and comparing competition with with the organization. External competition is also very key. There is also something which is in the market, in the HR market and the HR management environment, called remote working. There are several incidences. For example, when COVID-19 advanced in these countries in the year 2019, 2020, and 2021, but progressively working and traveling to far places was hampered, and therefore there has always been organizations creating environments where interaction and communication is done without necessarily being physically present in some workplaces. So one can click on a computer and repair another computer in a remote area. You can be on your phone and study from another country. You can be on your phone and access content, have visual or virtual teams on interaction. You can digitally access some of the documents and procedures, digitally access some of the tools of services. You can make digital orders from foreign markets and follow up your delivered your items to be delivered on where they are online. You can have supporting workers in the remote working environment. So those are very key. We also have what we call the gig environment or the gig community, which is creating contingent workers, the gig economy and contingent workers. So the prevalence of short-term contracts is becoming key, and the freelance work as opposed to the permanent jobs which we had earlier. And though the permanent jobs are still existing, the organizations are also considering the gig economy and the contingent workers, where short-term contracts and freelance working is emphasized. So some workers are engaged for a period of solving a challenge, and when the challenge is solved, they are detached. Others are on call. When the problem emerges, that's when they come to do the work. There are also challenges, or there are also challenges where experience is challenged for expertise. So some human resource managers are challenged with the sidelining some workers due to possessing few years of service. That those with few years are considered not to be able to do the work better. There is that challenge now. Human resource managers and planners are challenged that there are people who work towards improving their skills and competencies each day, each hour. So they have more skills and abilities acquired without much exposure to the work and without much exposure to experience of experience. So people have little experience but with more expertise. Yet there are those who have much experience but with little expertise. Yet there are still those with high experience, more experience, and with more expertise. So human resource managers are challenged so that they do not only look at just the span of exposure to a workplace, the time of someone's stay in the workplace, and draw a conclusion that now this one has skills, and that those who have little exposure to the workplace are sidelined. So that bias has been hit hard by researchers and hit hard by those who are endeavoring to make sure they improve their skills each day, each month, and each year, so that they have more expertise even though the experience is lower. So the judgment, the position of judging who can do the work better is now shifting more from experience to expertise, or considering both. There are also legal and regulatory changes in 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 the Human Resource Management Office. So the Human Resource Management Office has got to continually monitor and adopt the changes in the labor laws and regulatory systems. This can be in terms of compliance to the laws of privacy, anti-discriminatory laws, those anti-discrimination regulations where people are not discriminated due to age or due to religion or due to race or due to places of birth or due to any form of discrimination that can arise, that can sideline workers due to gender, due to disabilities. Those in this, there aren't discriminatory or discrimination regulations that human resource managers have to consider. There are domestic tax laws regarding domestic taxes, such as employment taxes of pay as you earn, income tax of individual and non-individual companies, and all other levies such as local service taxes, which rates keep on changing by law, and the systems of payment and the compliance keep on changing by filing periods keep on changing. So, and labor standards which are established keep on varying country by country. So the Human Resource Management Office has got to entirely examine the legal environment and the regulatory environment to detect changes each year, each financial year, and each season, to see that these changes the organization is abreast of the changes. There is also the equal opportunity employment opportunity movement, the EEO movement. So this is in line with the inclusivity and what we have already discussed as the equity need of the organization. So the managers need to equally distribute work, the opportunities without bias of race, tribe, age, color, religion, and the other forms of biases. So being just, having justice is everyone's responsibility, including the Human Resource Management Office, the entire management and the stakeholders, so that there is no partiality and favoritism based on unjust interest and bent attitudes towards one another. There is also an issue of elimination of servitude. Eliminating servitude is where we see that it is an environment of slavery, where there is forced labor. People are forced to do things even if they are not within their interest and their ability. So, except for cases where the constitutions stipulate that the commander-in-chief of the armed forces in terms of war can impose a decree to everyone in a country to involve in a war, and the nations can expose their citizens to war. So there has always been a demand that forced labor or denial of privileges to choose what to be done and what is desirable to be done, or what is right to be done by the worker. But those rights are reserved by the employer to expose the worker to what the worker may not desire is discouraged. So human resource managers need to sit on a desk and agree with the worker on what should be done and how it should be done, other than forcing the worker to do what the employer wants that is contrary to what the worker actually wants. Sometimes you can see in some countries where the worker has a contract which is not in line with what actually the worker is doing each day. So such kind of servitude or closing the worker in a certain environment, and the worker has no alternatives of what to be done, but instead doing what the employer or the company is imposing to that worker to do without the consent of the worker, is what we are calling a servitude. There is also increasing demand for partnerships, where the organizations are becoming more open source organization or open system organization. So organizations are working towards expanding mutually beneficial partnerships with the other organizations and other individuals each year. So human resource managers are looking for workers with the ability to attract, sustain, and develop partnerships in national and international settings, internal and external settings. There are also other concerns of human resource in the modern times, such as health and safety of workers. So, safety of workers and their health and security is key. Other needs can be reviewed by looking at the Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs and the need for achievement theory by McClelland, and the and the other theories. The two-factor theory you can also see. There are also digital systems such as using computer in communication, working, monitoring and evaluation are key ingredients of the current workforce. So employees and the managers need to learn to use digital systems using computers in day-to-day operations. So that's why you see that there are online recruitment systems instead of recruiting people by coming to a workplace or traveling all the way in the bus or in the train trying to access for a recruitment center, accessing a recruitment center. No, they are online recruitment systems. AI in planning, where workers plan using AI, artificial intelligence. So human resource managers need to know the quality of the plans and the operations or responses, even reports generated by workers, to see that these reports have real life inputs, the reality of what is actually happening at the workplace. Otherwise, using AI is good, but using it without creativity and without reality is destructive. So those are some of the issues in the human resource management environment that are demanding changes or workforce dynamics, where the human resource manager and the management of the entire organization needs to be aware and needs to plan. There are also changes which we see, such as continuous learning and development, where workers are given time to study on a job. They are also given space to go for studying specialized short courses, and which could be internal development conferences are prepared, and the training sessions online and physical. There are flexible benefits and rewarding systems, which benefits are being adopted in the market, which benefits depend on distance, on efforts, on risks involved in doing work. There are also standards and other variables to be considered. So we can see that the environmental, social, and the governance initiatives are cropping up where corporate social responsibility is key. So workers should also be aware that there is a need to take care of the environment and the social welfare of the people in the communities for sustainable and the equitable community development. So there is that generosity where we have corporate social responsibility, which involves extending a hand to the welfare and supporting the wellness of the entire community, including the climate issues of climate change are addressed by your organization through your workers, including issues of helping people with disabilities, those who are orphans, the widows in the community, the students who are struggling with school fees and payment in schools are supported by the organization due to the willfulness of workers, and even supporting women enterprises to develop is becoming increasingly key, and also creating an enabling health promotion or public health environment in community. Preventing issues of global warming through tree planting activities and all other activities that reduce carbon content and carbon emission are increasingly becoming key. So, a human resource management office is also having a focus on how to have a good and conducive external and internal environment, which has to be cultivated in workers. Later on, we shall be looking at what we call multinational and international HR systems. So far, we are closing this session here. We shall have session 5 looking at the multinational and international organizations and international human resource management, so that we are able to manage human resource in international settings. Thank you for this session. I am Wilber Ssebuyungo Kivekayunga. You can access me or contact me on kivekayunga@gmail.com or actionkayunga@gmail.com or wsebuyoungo@nkumbauniversity.ug.ac.ug nkumbauniversity.ac.ug. Thank you.